Greetings, fellow Brooks and Brookies. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the season premiere of our Curb Your Enthusiasm final season recap podcast. It's season 12, episode 1, Atlanta. Dragon, it's been quite a while since we've gone full-blown, deep dive beat for beat on a recap for a TV series episode by episode. I want to say it's been since Saul. Obviously we've covered the Disney Plus stuff from time to time, but we don't really go beat for beat on that. So this kind of feels like a return to form for us, and I'm excited to get to it. So Dragon, you've seen every episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I have, as you know, Dragon, I've kind of hand-picked, cherry-picked select seasons. I intend to watch through all of them at a certain point, but I feel like this show is episodic enough that I can kind of jump into this final season and sort of be more or less caught up. You know, I did see the last couple seasons. I did see the one before this, which there's a lot of connective tissue to so far, so I'm glad that I at least saw that. But Dragon, actually, one thing that I want to mention is we have the podcast from Jeff Garland and Susie Essman.
Yes.
And Dragon, if you look into that, they're basically going episode by episode through the whole series.
Yes.
So I think what I might do is I think I might kind of use that podcast as my way of going through some of the earlier stuff, which I know doesn't really hold up as well. But if I use that podcast to kind of, at least get a little bit more insight into some of the production stuff, I think that's how I'm eventually going to catch up to the show, because I do intend on watching all of it once it's all completed. But anyways, Dragon, I'll throw it to you first as far as this first episode goes. What did you think of Atlanta?
Well, I'm going to take a moment to be schmaltzy here, because this is the last season, and this season does hold some significant meaning to me. So, yeah, I think, in part, of course, you're probably wondering, why are we talking about Curb Your Enthusiasm? Well, many reasons. But for me, because I know did I turn you on to Curb?
Yes, you did. A Christmas in July episode we did specifically was my kind of introduction, and then I watched the Lin-Manuel Miranda season after that.
Right, and then basically you kind of watch maybe a few select seasons, or I guess
like the Seinfeld one, the theater one. I think that's about it. I'm currently 2 episodes into season 6, Dragon, and Leon does show up in the second episode of season 6.
There we go. Yeah.
So I have seen Leon's introduction.
Excellent. So yeah, so for me, my introduction to Curb, so of course I love Seinfeld. Very big in the Seinfeld, and my grandfather and I, we bonded a lot over film and television, and I was a Seinfeld guy. He was not, but he was obsessed. He loved HBO. The 2 flagship shows of HBO for him that he was obsessed with were Sopranos and Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was always fun.
I love that because it's like the comedy and the drama.
Exactly. So he was upset. He rewatched them constantly. The way we rewatch Better Call Saul, he rewatched those shows again and again. He'd watch them on loop. Basically, he would put on HBO and just not just let it go and probably fall asleep during some of it. He'd watching all through the day practically. So,
I feel it.
There's just the question of, I wonder, Curb or Sopranos and the occasional Nurse Jackie. But again, that was on Showtime, and then now it's no longer on Showtime. So that's kind of where that anyway. So the point being, it was so weird because my introductory point was like Seinfeld, and you mentioned, I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, and that features the guy who basically co-created Seinfeld. Like really? So I watched.
Right. I mean, in some ways, Curb Your Enthusiasm is kind of the most out of left field, meta semi spin-off that there's ever been. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So again, it's very much, it's kind of it's the HBO version of Seinfeld to a degree. Again, it's the core value of where does the observational humor of Seinfeld come from in large part. I mean, aside from kind of the stand-up and kind of the ensemble cast, you have at its core Larry David.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so again, coming out of 2023, again, my grandfather there were 3 projects that he really wanted to see to completion. Sadly, he was unable to, and it was 2 of which we've seen already. Oppenheimer was the biggie. Very much wanted to see Oppenheimer. Then presumably Killers of the Flower Moon. I was going to show him that because it was going to be on Apple at some point, but again, because he loves Scorsese. And the third thing, a big one, Curb Your Enthusiasm, because he watched the 11 seasons, and unfortunately it took Larry David so long to make the seasons in between sometimes, and it was like, oh man, I wonder when they're ever going to get to it. So this season, it's closing the book in many ways for me. This is going to be kind of the last of like the expected things, and it's the last season of Curb, so it's got some heft to it for me. So
that's definitely bittersweet, man, for sure.
it's bittersweet in many ways. The end of plus also. I've been watching some of the Curb Enthusiasm podcasts with Jeff Green and Sue.
Oh, have you? Okay, so do you think that would be a good way for me to go about it? Like, basically, what I would do is I would watch an episode and then listen to the podcast about the episode.
I mean, it's not. Here's the thing: if you watch like the Sopranos companion podcast, I mean, again, they're circling around like you know the ending of the Sopranos cut through. It's kind of impossible not to because of pop culture osmosis. So that's kind of unavoidable. The Curb though does not have that problem. Curb, you can pretty much. I don't think it's a bad idea, honestly, because I don't know how frequently they're doing it. I don't know if they're doing it daily or not. At least probably, maybe.
I mean, my plan is like I'm not going to use that as like my way of going through the whole show, but my plan is at least to do it like through season 1, and then season 2 onward, I'll probably go at my own pace.
Here's what I can't remember. I can't remember on HBO Max if you have access to the pilot or not. That I'm unsure of because they start off by talking about the pilot and then they go on to episode 1, then 2, and so far it's as far as they've gotten. Anyway, but on that they did notes on it. Kind of completely forgot about like Curb Enthusiasm, longest running HBO series.
Yeah.
12 seasons, like every other show. Like I think Sopranos hit the record at like I think it did the thing that AMC does now, where they break up the last season into kind of 2 halves. So it's kind of 7 seasons, but really 6. So anywho, yes, last season of Curb. I thought the opener of this season was pretty solid.
Yeah, I basically the way I would describe this opener in a good way is. We're kind of playing the hits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I love what really amazed me in this episode, how it ended. This episode had there's a lot of meta finality in the ending, and basically it's a commentary on, I'm not saying they're going for a lot of self-analysis, but we do call out a huge thing in Larry David's career, which essentially he brought to him when he started Curb. And they kind of get into this in the recap and the podcast when they talk about the pilot, because when he's doing that pilot, he's essentially getting Curb in the first place. That's Larry David coming off of the infamous, divisive finale of Seinfeld, and we kind of homage that here.
Right.
We have a huge reference to that in this episode, so I thought that was a brilliant way. We're going into the last season. We're playing with the fact that all the eyes and pressure is going to be on Larry David to see how he ends his show after he ended the other hugely iconic show. So I think that's brilliant. Like, yes.
I'm assuming the callback you're talking about is the jail stuff, like him getting arrested.
The way he gets arrested is a huge plot point in the last. Here's the thing: he left Seinfeld after season 7, but he came back for the last episode. And the last episode.
Oh no! Really? Oh yes. Wow! Oh, so that's
episode
nuts.
Was the 2-parter. So I mean, that was that whole idea.
And it was like supposed to be like Larry David's big return, but instead it's one of the most infamous final episodes of any TV show.
It's a weird thing. So Larry David,
Dragon. I'm so glad I'm getting the backstory to this, like before we get much further into the season, because that is a good origin point.
Because that's the thing. So he left at season 7 on Seinfeld. He ended with 7, and then season 8, he's still doing the off-screen voice of George Steinbrenner, but he's not involved with the show. And they felt kind of weird about it, so he kind of left for 9. But he came back to direct, the last episode, write and direct the last episode, with the finale. And again, it was the one where it's like, oh man, people really, he got a lot of crap for it, because again, people had a lot of expectations for the last episode of Seinfeld.
That's nuts.
So, and yeah, he ate a lot of crap for it.
So I already kind of gave my predictions on Memoirs where I think this season's going to go. And honestly, I think I'm pretty confident in it, where I think this season is basically going to explore in, a classic Curb meta way, sort of like what happens, when good things are happening to Larry David, and B, the idea that Larry David cannot accept good things happening to him, and he always finds a way to self-sabotage that.
Absolutely.
And I think this episode is like clearly like a good demonstration for it right off the gate.
Sure. Right out the gate, yeah.
All right, we have Kogias in the comments. He says, must have even more seasons than Seinfeld. Yeah, Seinfeld had 9, right?
Yeah, Seinfeld had 9 seasons, and Curb is going to end with 12.
Yeah, so this had more seasons than Friends, even.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a very rare thing, at least for live action. I mean,
Kogias says, I don't think that Curb Your Enthusiasm tops Seinfeld because the stories have been more repetitive and slower. However, they're still making there's still plenty of solid comedy and good writing. I mean, I think it varies season to season for sure. But like, for example, season 11, I honestly wasn't crazy about.
Season 11 is no season. Season 10 was immaculate.
Season 10 was a masterclass. Yeah, it really was. Like, honestly, when all is said and done, I wouldn't be surprised if season 10 ends up being my favorite season.
Yeah.
So, so I do think it just kind of varies from season to season.
I mean, here's the thing, but both Curb and Seinfeld have in common, then we should really get into it. But
sure.
Is that there's a build there, okay? Because like the season, it's the sophomore season. I guess it's the freshman season. They're figuring everything out. You have, Seinfeld is very much like they were picked up essentially for a pilot and then 4 episodes. So it was very much them figuring out the show, and they worked a lane they're not in the pilot. So they were kind of figuring out what can we do here. And you get a sense Curb was something kind of similar. They're getting a rhythm for things. And it's not the style of Curb, shifted that much, but they kind of added like the through line after season 1. That they were kind of like they were finding themselves. So season 1 of Curb is not like I think it's the least it's at the bottom of the totem pole when you look at the entirety of the series. I mean, presumably if 12 keeps up this
momentum. That's what I keep hearing about with season 1, which is why I think it's a good idea for me to go into it. Like, if I am going to watch it, I think watching it through the lens of the podcast.
I mean, yeah, it would give you an interesting perspective, kind of knowing like, oh, here's where it kind of goes, and just seeing, okay, this is where we this is the rock we build the church upon. This is kind of the foundational elements are there, just we're not really firing all cylinders yet. Okay.
No, the Jeff Garlin stuff did not lead to him getting fired. As a matter of fact, Garlin is hosting the podcast. So
yeah, that's Garlin was the whole thing where he basically had like a very kind of Curb Your Enthusiasm sense of humor on that set. He didn't necessarily, again, he was just making off color, like stuff you would probably be saying to Larry David versus
Yeah, I don't really want to go into that because it's one of those things where, unless you're like a Jonathan Major situation where the evidence is just like entirely against.
Sure, we can agree. It's not like they're not like 2 peas in a pod on that one though. It's very
right. So it's like it's all speculative at this point. So yeah, as of now, Jeff Garlin is still very much with the show and in fact hosting the podcast. So
that's the last season anyway. So
right. All right.
So
let's start, Dragon. I will admit, this first bit, it had me worried. It had me genuinely worried.
So from last season, we had the introduction of Maria Sophia. And she did too good a job at that part because like Larry David, I couldn't stand her. But she's very pivotal to that plot. We're not supposed to like her. We're supposed to be in Larry's shoes like, oh man, he's in a nightmare situation right now. And again, I think the entire reason we do the Maria Sophia thing here is to give him a Seinfeld that he's cursed with success with a show that's seemingly in universe here as dwarf Seinfeld.
Right.
In terms of, but it's also kind of mocking like where the sitcom is now with like the young Sheldons and everything. It's the whole like it's young Larry.
I love how, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've never really seen any clips of young Larry, right?
We've seen him like prepare to shoot, and we've seen the table read. We have not seen the actual.
Yeah.
I don't believe we've seen the actual.
So I kind of have this little headcanon that the show is so bad that like it would almost be embarrassing to actually show what it actually looks like, especially given that it's so popular in universe.
It still cracks me up that Ted Danson is on that show wearing like a bald cap and everything.
God.
But yeah, so young Larry is a huge sensation. We see Larry David just can't stand it. It's like, what?
So with Maria Sophia, I will say the one ingredient that they do add to her character is that she does have like the legitimate like breakout star success
Mhm.
that just very much fuels her already like huge ego. And so I will say that as a villain, I do think she is a little bit more over the top than she was in the first season, where I feel like in the first, well, not obviously not the first season,
So she
but
was there from
like
the
her,
very beginning. She's a little girl back in 10
her
years.
introductory season. I feel like they almost kind of just played her as an idiot most of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like I feel like because she's got a taste of success, there's something a little bit more like outwardly malicious about the way that she conducts herself that I
The
think is an
industry is
interesting
corrupted.
ingredient to the character.
The industry's corrupted her a bit. I think that like success is kind of steering her down like the path of like, oh yeah, I can get away with being a dunce now. I don't have to,
Right,
you know.
right, right.
It's like she
So
that's
I
like she
will say
lucked
that it
into
is
it.
an improvement over what we saw in season 11. I will say that much, at least so far.
A commentary a little bit on like what people will eat up. Just the fact that again she's like the worst actress ever, and we've seen like dear God, this every like, we had a whole episode last season where it was like Cheryl like pointing out like every acting choice she makes is like wrong. It's like
Right,
literally
right.
they just read a line back and forth. She turned like every like casual line like oddly like saucy 90s sexual for some reason. She just kind of did that.
My theory on it, like in universe, as far as like how she was actually able to like craft her on-screen persona, is that it is just a lot of fucking improv, and it's
Yeah.
basically her just being loud and annoying on set, and that translating into the audience actually loving her,
Yeah.
which I think is great, honestly. Like she would be the type of person to like really be a breakout star in this era.
Yeah. So, yeah, so she goes on Kimmel and everything, and again, Larry just can't stand it. Okay, so let's see. Now, admittedly, there was one thing that kind of went over my head in this, and I wonder if there was something I was miss. Part of me wishes I could have gone. I went back. Circumstances prevented me from going back to season 11 and re-binging it. But um, Larry David, he promised Drew Powell, of all people, Butch Gilzine from Gotham, good old Drew Powell. I was delighted to see him pop up because, see, to my knowledge, to give my recollection, I don't know if you recollect it, but this whole thing, I don't know. Irma was in a support group. I mean, that's the thing. That kind
No,
of
that
like,
I don't. I
I don't
think
think
this
that
is.
was established.
I honestly think this plot device is thrown in there. I don't think this
Yeah,
was in season 11.
because that's the thing. I kept thinking like, I don't remember there at all being like Irma like.
I honestly think this whole plot device is meant to be like jokingly melodramatic.
It sounds like it, but here's what I love about this though. I love that Drew Powell is just very again. He's so ever lovable in this thing here. It's like he's genuinely trying to help Irma Kostrowski, and he's like making a genuine emotional plea to Larry David. Like, Larry, you got to
You
stay
gotta
with me for
promise me,
6 months.
Larry. 6
Promise me.
months.
6 months. How can you not promise that man anything? Okay.
Okay, so Tracy Ullman's introduction into the season
It was
is just
priceless.
amazing, man. It's amazing.
We've all heard this ad, and she just making JG Wentworth 877 cash now.
Oh god, and just the way that she's delivering it, where it's just like it's both like really, really like it's like an enthusiasm that's infectious, right? But also the
Ah,
singing is objectively terrible.
no, absolutely. But here's the she's a great counterpoint. 'Cause, I mean, how did you feel about Irma last season? You like her?
Dragon, I definitely liked her more than Maria Sophia last
Yeah.
season. I'll say that much.
Because I'm
And
saying it's interesting. We had two characters you're not supposed. Essentially, they're unlikable characters, but Larry David stuck with one of them. So I like that as he grows a fondness for her. At the very least, like it's kind of nice not being alone. I don't like her, but I kind of like having someone at the house.
right, right,
Basically,
right.
I kind of he kind of likes having someone who's not Leon at the house. It's like pretty
Uh
much the only thing he has in common with that Irma Kostrowski,
huh.
which is just really funny. So it's kind of there's a tolerance with her, versus Maria Sophia.
Sure, sure.
Anyway, but yeah, so like they have like a little banter there about the almond milk. the oat milk versus the almond milk, which is I think it's gonna come back from a little teaser we saw next episode. We're gonna bring up the milk thing again. But yeah, so it's the fact that Irma's coming back. Rarely does that happen where we have like the returning player.
Yeah, it seems like that's definitely a new thing that they're kind of experimenting with this season. It is slightly more serialized than the show is used to doing. And honestly, Dragon, on a rewatch, because I will say I rewatched this episode a couple times since watching it initially. I don't know, man. Like we were talking about it off air a little bit. I fully believe that Maria Sophia is going to be like the antagonist of this season. I don't know if she'll be in every episode, but I think she's going to be prominent.
That's the thing. I just don't know about that because I really feel like last season was kind of the season they did that in. I don't think they're going to.
I don't know. But what I'm saying is that I'm saying that, like, given the fact that the season literally starts with like her ascent into stardom, like, I'm saying she's leveled up in terms of her being a villain, Dragon. Like, because like I said, in season 11, she was like an annoyance. And now in this season, she's like full blown, a little bit more malicious. So I don't know. I think there's something there. And I'm honestly not disappointed with it if that is the direction we go. Because it like when this show does big bads, I mean, it can be great. So
let us not forget Mocha Joe.
Of course, yeah. And so far, I do think that season, like, at least what we've seen from her in this episode, it is an improvement over season 11. All right.
Yeah. That's one episode in, but yeah. Okay, so fun fact. So again, he's like counting down the days. Now, the calendar says 2023, which is kind of interesting. So our passage of time, I don't know I don't know necessarily where we're going with that. If we're gonna, because sometimes we jump ahead, like, you know, we don't go like necessarily to the next day in Curb, you know, at all really. So it's, you know, we started like, seems like a month has gone by. We're entering, I think, going from like October, November or something.
It wouldn't surprise me if the whole season builds up to like the decision of whether or not he is going to dump her on the 6-month point.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I wonder if like it's like, okay, a month has gone by since he's been counting down days, or if it's just like it happens. You imagine just visually, okay, 1 month has gone by and we're on like the start of month 2, so still got a long ways to go.
All
right. Okay, let's see. So Larry David's going to meet the Greens at a restaurant, but before he does, he's got to get directions, Tiki. And how does that go?
So, Dragon, I'm curious. Has there ever been a Larry David versus Siri gag on this show before?
There has been Larry David versus technology, but not specifically
Siri.
I believe this is the first time he's mixed.
Okay, because it seems like something that it's like it just writes itself, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's funny that over the years, because you think about the wide breadth that Curb has had, because I think technically it starts in like 99 or 98. So maybe not 98. You know, it's kind of starting like towards, again, it's roughly in the year Seinfeld ended when we
it kind of started in the .com era, essentially.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because for me, I think of the Glen Rock car wash incident where it's Larry David versus the cell phone, but in a very, like, he's calling while he's in a car wash on a cell phone calling somebody, like, and the lady can't hear him.
Right.
Yeah, so we've had like, I think there's like a GPS sort of thing once, but it was not Siri. It wasn't. We have all sorts of phone issues with them in this episode, so it makes me think, okay, we're finally doing some big old Larry David versus technology stories here. So Larry David yelling at Siri, which again, Larry David, I think when written right, at the very least for me, I've always bothers me how much I have in common with this man, or how many thoughts I have this man has had. It always like, oh man.
And I do think that this episode in particular does do the great Curb Your Enthusiasm thing, where it's like, Dragon, I think you can tell that it's a really well written episode when your sympathy wanes back and forth between Larry and other people.
Yep.
Where it's like you're on Larry's side, but then he'll do something that just crosses the line.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, Larry,
it's like,
no.
I know. Yeah, taking the episodes all the time in Curb when you have that moment of like, oh, Larry, don't do that. Oh.
Right.
Like you had it, and then you lost. Oh. So Larry David, this mundane thing we've all been through. You have like a voice remote or Siri or what have you. In this case, most of you typically Siri. Siri just isn't getting it at all, and you're being very clear. And just seeing it's so cathartic. Larry David screaming obscenities at Siri.
So I have a specific delivery that I do want to recite that is
Go
going to
on.
get us like demonetized, but I just love the timing and the delivery so much where it's like he calls Siri the C word, right?
Okay, you're not going
And
to go
then
that far.
and then Siri's like trying to lay out the definition of butt cake, and he's like, "No, not butt cake. I called you a cunt." And then Siri's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't get that." And then they're just like, "I called you a cunt." And it's just like that just cracks me up because it's like obviously like the height of the obscenities of the argument, but also it's full blown like Larry David having a conversation with an inanimate object, you know.
And again, he would do this to an actual living, breathing person too, which just makes it even funnier. Like he like clarified the insult.
Oh God.
Okay, so we're at lunch with the Greens. Long story short, we exposit, that basically he's got one of those party appearance things, which is kind of like a famous people thing, where famous people are hired to just basically mingle at parties. And they're going all the way to Atlanta this time, which is where they shoot all the movies. At least all the Marvel movies. And so he basically has like this is nice. We kind of bring back. Sometimes it feels like Curb in his later seasons, like we just like having Jeff around versus like Jeff is his manager. Like in the early seasons of Curb, you're gonna see all over the place. Like Jeff is Larry David's best friend and manager. He manages him for gigs and stuff, and books the gigs. So we kind of bring it back here in this season. Like Jeff, he writes up his contract and he handles the the business. Where he makes it okay. I'm so glad you brought it up, Jeff. In my contract, want no pictures. I'm not performing. I'm not giving a speech because Larry David does hate doing like stand up like at people's parties, which they would always ask him to do.
I could see that. Yeah.
But pre Seinfeld, this is kind of what gets Seinfeld happening. The way he met Jerry Seinfeld really was he was at a party and doing stand up. He didn't want to perform it, so he wrote it for Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld performed it, and that's how it went. Anyway, so it says okay. The only thing in the contract is okay. Just I'll be cordial. Can you be cordial? I mean, I think so. I mean, what do you think?
Okay, Jeff Garlin, he delivers I feel like his response to this is I feel like a response that basically just sums up the entire Jeff Larry dynamic, where he's like, I mean, I think you can. Where it's like, you know what I mean? He's like almost kind of like passing the responsibility on to Larry. Like, yeah, I think you can, but if you can't, then it's on you.
Again, just Jeff. Here's the wonderful thing, Jeff Garlin, is he's so ridiculously honest in the way he plays Jeff Green. Just the fact that it's like, I don't really know. I mean, maybe you can. We address the anti-Rays move to Atlanta, so it's kind of nice to kind of check in with the Black family. I don't mean just the Black family; I mean, literally their name is Black, so Leon Black, anti-Ray Black. But yeah,
sure, let's go with that.
No, seriously, the whole family's. Well, you saw the whole family's last name.
Yeah.
Anyway. So they're in lunch with him, and we're basically expositing. Okay, so he's going to a party mainly because of young Larry, and Maria Sophia is gonna be there. So they want, he's just kind of there by proxy, and it's kind of visiting.
But I mean, they do make a point that Larry David is a childhood hero to this guy. Like that does become a big plot point. So it's it's not like Larry's a tag along. You know what I mean?
Well, that's true. But
I kind of feel like the way I read it is that Maria Sophia is kind of like the big party person that you want to get, and then Larry David is almost like kind of like the personal get for the host.
You also have to imagine too, I mean, the show is called Young Larry. I know while she is the breakout star, apparently, which I'm sure irritates Larry David against his life story as a sitcom.
Right.
Again, it is his life story, so if you're a Seinfeld fan or a Larry David fan, basically, again, the other way of looking at it, in a sense, Young Larry is in-universe Curb when we've already had in-universe Seinfeld.
Oh, God.
Depending on how you look at it.
Oh, God.
All right, so this is hilarious, mundane, like one of those uncomfortable social situations you can be in.
This is classic. This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to Curb Your Enthusiasm, just playing the hits, Dragon.
Yeah. So their waiter is taken forever, and we learn that the waiter is grieving. His mother passed, and he did not take time off to grieve. So he's being stopped with condolences while the food's getting cold. And Larry David just interjects. He just walks on over.
You know what my favorite line in this is?
We got to tip him.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also just love Susie being kind of like sympathetic and bitchy at the same time.
Oh,
Where it's
absolutely. That's her to a T.
like, where she's like, "Well, he should be home if he's mourning." But yeah, well, we have to give him a sympathy tip now, and
Yeah,
it's like
there's
I
a
love how
sympathy
it's like
tip.
it's both an annoyance and they know it's also the right thing to do.
It's an acknowledgement. Like, yeah, we have to do it. Like, there's no way around that.
But then also, Dragon, I just got to acknowledge the tuna melt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want you don't want a melt to get cold, Dragon.
Was there
Like
also
there is
soup?
urgency in that situation.
Like, Larry had soup, didn't he?
Yes, and soup is also another thing you don't want to get cold. But I'm saying a tuna melt in particular is like one of the last things that I would want served to me, even lukewarm. It's like you need that. Like that's the point of the melt, Dragon.
Do you know what? The tuna melt is the magical sandwich. Do you know why?
Why?
It's Wong's favorite sandwich.
Okay, there you go.
No, seriously, he loves the tuna melt. So magic, by proxy.
All right, I believe you.
Not making it up. It's in the movie.
Anyways.
Okay. Yes. So Larry does like so smoothly. He just walks over, like gives the condolence while just taking the tray out of the hand. I wish I could do that, man. I wish I had the confidence.
I know, right?
I would so do that in a heartbeat.
And I feel like in that situation, we're all very much like, like, yeah, Larry, you go. That was the perfect way to actually handle that.
Yes. You bespectacled, beautiful genius, you. Yes. All right, so let's see. So after lunch, okay. So we're in the airport. Maria Sophia has like this stupid therapy, like the emotional.
Oh, I had a feeling you weren't gonna like the therapy dog.
No. I'm just saying, in principle, I think the emotional support dog thing's a bit much. I mean, especially at the very least, here we're very directly using it as like the parody of like, okay, some people don't need the emotional support animal. Okay, there are people that actually kind of probably need like an emotional support animal. The Maria Sophia is like she wants to have like the Paris Hilton like dog thing, and this is how she has an excuse to take it anywhere she wants.
You know what I think really drives that point home is that this dog is clearly in need of emotional support in his own right.
So the dog, we fat shame the dog, which is priceless to me. I love insulting the dog.
Also, we just gotta quickly set up the whole issue with Larry butt dialing people, which is going to be a major plot point.
Yes. So he and Leon are having a conversation about, Larry's his butt dial people, and he ends up having lunch with the people he butt dials, which is like a whole thing. And Leon has, let's just say, he's accidentally ordered a pizza front dialing.
But yeah, Leon fat shaming the dog is very priceless for sure.
JB Smooth, he is in rare form already out the gate this season. Leon has never lost. I swear to God, Leon never lost a step in the entirety of Curb. He's from moment one. He's just on.
Totally.
Anyway, so the fact that the fact that he's like pointing out very astutely, like, yeah, this dog has no understanding of what we're saying, and just points out he's insulting the dog to its face and getting away with it.
Hey, fat fuck! You a fat ass! You fucking fat! You a short, fat ass dog!
It's like a corgi or something, isn't it? Anyway,
so they got a meal on the flight. Don't do it. Don't you eat nothing else.
Okay, so I like that we set them both up in the same scene. I'd like we go full circle with this. We're at the airport. We have the fat dog, and we set up the butt dialing thing. So all three elements are set up, and they're going to pay off. Again, this even if this serialized narrative, we do our payoffs in one episode.
Sure.
Which is always very impressive. We get a lot done in the 30 minutes that we're allotted. Okay, so we arrive in Atlanta. We have we reunite with Auntie Ray, which is quite lovely. Larry David did get along.
Well, hold on, before we do the Auntie Ray thing, we do
right.
the quick stopover in the hotel.
Yes.
So Dragon, this maid, I think, is the epitome of the whole like you're on Larry's side and then you're not.
I know, Ligaya.
Yeah. Because in her first appearance, Dragon, I don't know if I've ever been more on Larry David's side.
Yeah, right. I was
Like, the room is not that bad. It's really not. There's some clothes strewn over the floor. Yes, my underwear. You can see my underwear, but it's a hotel room.
How dare she say I come back? Like, how
Dragon,
dare she?
it was so fucking rude. Like, honestly, like I was 100% on Larry's side.
Yeah, I mean, he is absolutely right. This is your job.
That being said, the shit he pulls with the toilet, cringe as fuck, and we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, that was more of an awkward situation on all fronts, but
right?
We'll get there. But yes, so Ligaya, I think Ligaya hell out of it coming though. Frankly, I mean, with the way her introduction here, it's like I don't know.
I really like her storyline throughout the episode. I do think it has a really good payoff to it.
All right. So okay, so let's see. So Auntie Ray. We're in Atlanta. We reunite with Auntie Ray. He always got along with Auntie Ray, so it's a genuinely nice reunion. It then goes south pretty fast.
But it's not through the fault of Auntie Ray at all.
No, it's not. No, not. She didn't do anything wrong here. I want to be very clear. Again, she needed some glasses, and then I still say this is like feeding into the whole. Maria Sophia is kind of a sociopath when you look at it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. She just does not get the problem.
Here's the thing: I love the way if you really freeze frame this scene when she walks in, she grabs the glasses, she has that malicious little smile on her face. She grabs the glasses, and I would attest. I think the way she grabbed those glasses is what stretched them out. I don't think it was Auntie Ray's head. I think.
I like that. I like that theory.
That is my headcanon. I think the way she grabbed those glasses off and like put them on. I think that's what I think happened.
And I also just like Larry David, his delivery of like his shock at her audacity of doing that might be the funniest Larry delivery of the episode for me.
Yep.
What?
I am on his side until he's yelling at Auntie Ray. That's where I'm on. Like him saying Auntie
right.
Ray.
I feel that. I feel that.
It's like, Larry, don't take it out on Auntie Ray's head. Like, come on, man.
As a matter of fact, I would say it's freakish.
You got a peanut head, Mr. Peanut. Anyway, so Auntie Ray, being the grown-up in the room, she has a pair of spares. They realize with the whole glass thing, they must have the same prescription. So, convenience sake for the comedy, no problems there. Larry David ends up wearing these old lady glasses for the duration of the episode. It is great. And the main reason, and let's talk about why he's left with the old lady glasses. He tries fixing them in his hotel room.
God.
And I gotta be honest, this is kind of like a mundane fear I have. It's not on the top of the list. If I were like Adrian Monk and I had like a laundry list of fears, this is not on the top of the list, but it is a concern. I'm always afraid of like anything dropping in the toilet like that. Like
sure.
There is an existential fear of like, oh god, like if you had a pair of glasses on and they were not firmly attached, something like this happening. So I did have like a cathartic, oh god, no. So it's like the show kind of gets me. And it was like, right. So that's what I'm saying.
But Larry's approach to this, though, is like might be the worst thing that he does the whole episode. Honestly,
I'm with him. I gotta be honest. A part of me, I think I would have. I would like to think I would have approached the situation differently, but I don't know. I'm just saying.
You think you would have asked though? You would have broached the subject.
Here's the thing, okay? The moment where he's like contemplating reaching in, but he can't. That's me. Okay. I can't do it. I just can't do it. So I would have to, for me, I probably would have fashioned something rudimentary form of tweezers or something.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, I would probably like grab like 2 or 3 layers of towels or
like something like exactly.
Yeah,
rudimentary something, so I can touch it as least as possible, and I'd probably be boiling my hands for about 5 minutes. Regardless.
Right.
The point being, I think the logical response would have been Larry David goes out there. He either like, at the very least, can I borrow some gloves at the minimum? Okay, but either that or like, look, I need you to do your job here. I need you to help me out. I would have prostrated myself to the lady. Just, this is a hassle. Can you help me out here? They just
right.
Hey, I'm stupid. Can you please help me?
Man,
that's what I would have done. Regardless, so he goes. I like that. So Larry David, in his typical fashion, he essentially tries earning some sympathy points with Lagaya. There, it's like, hey, look, what a beautiful name. And he throws the hypothetical at her, and she's not having any of it.
You
She's
do it
very
yourself.
Do it yourself.
It's a hypothetical. I didn't say it was really mine. I said it could happen, not that it did.
Yep. Anyway, so he ends up going, basically our title shot here, he goes to the elevator.
Yes, yes.
Glasses.
So you see why I think this has got to be like the thumbnail of the episode, right? I think it really just sums up everything.
What cracks me up is the girl in the blue dress, like looking at him to the side there. That's my favorite part of the image, because if you look when the elevator doors close, like she's like doing a double take, looking at him. He's just like looking right at her.
Yeah. Even the people getting off of the elevator, Dragon, just the body language on everyone involved in this scene is just priceless.
That lady like giving like a real like, what is this guy? Yep. All right, let's see. So, so he's wearing the old lady glasses, and I believe we go to the we go to the party next.
Yeah.
Yes, we're at the party. So Michael Fouché, I believe how we say his name. Michael Fouché, who is he's African, if you can believe it. In reality, South African, but he's doing that thing of like he wants to sound more exotic than he actually is. It's like, no, he's actually He won't just only South African. Like, no, he's African.
Right.
And you know he's absolutely doing that on purpose. He's doing that to screw with people. He's playing with the whole like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's basically like culture clout points essentially.
It's like a little bit what Mel Gibson used to do way back in the day, but he kind of grew up and he stopped doing. He did other less redeeming things, mind you, but he used to do that. There's a growth, there's some growth there, a little bit, maybe in the wrong direction, but there was an evolution.
Oh God, an evolution, yes.
An evolution, and it's a little misshapen, but it's an evolution anyway. So, so Michael Fouché, he's the guy, he's the super fan of Larry David's. He invites him to the party, and he offers him a piece of advice with one of the guests.
Oh my God. So this Brookie thing, Dragon, I really think it's just like a tour de force. Like I think it's a great first like major conflict to hang on a Curb season.
Yeah, it's in the DNA of the show. Like
absolutely.
Yes. So the young woman who's a dear friend of the host of the party. Her name is Brooke. The host calls her Brookie because he's good friends with her. Says like just call her just call her Brooke though, because only close friends call her Brookie. And again, Larry David's like, it's kind of weird, but all right, it's he's kind of taking it, but he does acknowledge that it's silly, and I think Larry David is in the right for everything that transpires after the thing happens, but I don't think he had to instigate it.
He didn't have to escalate the situation. Yeah,
in the first place, when he walked up to her, he said Brookie, so he instigated that situation. All right, like he knew he wasn't. But if he just like walked up to her and asked, like, "Hey, why the Brookie rule?" Then I would have been on his side, like 100% no problems. Like he asked a very honest question, why the Brookie thing? But no, he just went up, said Brookie, and then she corrected him, and then it went all off the rails. So yeah, I love that this actress is playing it. She's all smiles, but it's also kind of like all smiles, and in a sense, you kind of want to punch her after a while. Like, okay, we just saw what Carl just did right now.
Okay, Carl, Dragon. Carl is kind of like the wrinkle in the operation that does kind of like lean me back into Larry's side, honestly.
Because she's essentially in the right until Carl shows up. It's
right. And Carl, basically, for all intents and purposes, it's like we don't know. How much time they spent at that first party together, but like, yeah, it's a little suspect. I'm not going to lie. If I was in that same situation, I would feel a little insulted. I wouldn't confront her about it, but I would feel a little slighted. I would.
Yep. And again, let's just face it too. Michael Fouché, this guy's pretentious as all get out, and his guests are weird.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, just the fact that we had that great bit with Leon too, where Leon said, "If he's African, I'm MFer Finn. Huckleberry Finn.
Uh-huh.
So I love this. He and Larry, again, they have such a good rapport, and they have like the banter of like figuring out who Leon means with like he has wet feet all the time. Oh, Huckleberry Finn. Yeah. Anyway, so again, the whole Brookie thing just keeps going on as he's like asking people around the party, and so Larry David is essentially being courted. He's shaking hands. He's feigning interest. Like,
The
oh,
fading interest, though, is fantastic. Like, he's just really hamming it up. Like, you don't say.
Oh, we got some gags like Leon with the cake. Of all the cakes that he eats in that room, of all the cakes,
He just takes like a big slice of like all 3 layers.
But not just that. Of all, there's like 100 cakes, and there's like at least 8 cakes in that room, and he eats the birthday cake.
Yup.
Just puts it back. Probably doesn't even like smooth out the lines from like the slice that it just like put the strawberry there, and that's it. All right, let's see. So we're feigning interest. He's getting some funny looks about the glass. Oh, he has that look. The one lady, they have like the matching glasses, and they have like that nod of respect. Which is priceless. All right, let's see. We had the really sweet bit of like Larry David and Leon. They had this moment where they kind of like they're bantering, and they kind of plant. Essentially, I don't know. I doubt they mean this literally, but if Larry David actually confirmed this, he probably would say yes. Just this whole thing of like you're planning a trip to go to the Congo and then Tel Aviv to look for ladies.
Yeah, that was adorable for sure.
Yeah. And if Leon actually held him up to that, he would absolutely do that.
Sure.
All right, let's see. What would you like to discuss next?
Well, we already kind of went over the Brookie stuff, so let's see. You want to talk about him escalating it?
Please do.
All right. So first of all, I do think that one of the big things, like on top of the Brookie thing, is that he snubs Michael's picture.
Yeah, but again, in his contract, he doesn't have to do any pictures.
Oh, it's in the contract. No,
yeah,
pictures?
remember
I just thought no speeches. Okay,
it was no speeches and no pictures and no stand up.
All right, so he's going in and he is confronting Brookie. I will say pretty intensely. Like he's raising his voice a little bit. He's getting a little bit intense with it.
He's bringing up Carl. He's bringing up the Carl of it all. I love her reactions to him, like bringing up Carl, and it's like, ooh, Carl. I was given very strict instructions to call you Brooke, and yet
Carl is a great guy. No, he's not. I just spent 10 minutes with him. He's kind of a bore.
Yes, and the whole Larry rule, and she calls him Lair. So no, it's not the point. It's like one encounter. So yeah. Again, it's the fact that Larry is being a nuisance here, and the fact is like he's not. Again, it's not that he's not being cordial, but he isn't really giving.
Dragon, it's the one thing that he was specifically instructed on by Michael himself.
Yep.
To call her Brooke and not Brookie.
It's like
it's just like he just couldn't resist.
It's like Larry David's life is just kind of like a series of that moment from Better Call Saul of like, the switch, like don't switch the light switch.
Right.
Just like if you tell him this one thing, he will pick it apart to the nth degree of like, why is this a thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So after the party, they have the awkward goodbye between him and Michael.
It's painfully awkward. Oh my God. Oh man, it's because he's being like with Leon, he's like, see you, my brother, and then with Maria Sophia, he's being genuine, like really, you were great, which it did seem like she was the life of the party, but then with Larry, it's like, oh, it's painful, Dragon. It's like he can't even look the man in the eye. It's like, oh God.
All right, anyway, so back at the hotel, her stupid fat dog. We're just gonna fat shame the animals here. It's just gonna be fun. So rarely are we in a position where we can do that. It's a fat slobbering dog.
Right, right.
Just runs up and slobbers on Larry David's pants purely so we have an excuse for what happens next to happen next. But she says like, good, those pants were basic anyway. It's like you just want to punch or something. Like,
But that's what I'm saying, man. It's like I do feel like her antagonism is becoming a lot more blatant.
well,
And
yeah.
so I do think that there's ways that they can just keep escalating it throughout the season if we go that direction.
Oh yeah. All right, so he's blow drying the pants, and in blow drying the pants, he had a $10 bill. Which I don't know if that. Do you think the $10 bill specifically was intended for the tip, or do you think it was just he had $10 in his pocket?
I literally think it was just a spare bill on because when you're on vacation, Dragon, I can attest to like, every day when you get back to the hotel, there's there's a lot of spare money that gets kind of floated around, at least in my situation.
I mean, I that's what I think too, because I think he would have. Larry probably he tips generously.
I think he would have tipped way more than $10. Yeah, I agree.
That's the thing. So that's why I think like I don't think he actually was. I don't think that was. But then again, I could see it being if it was his last day in the hotel, which it kind of is for all we know. So part of me did wonder. But then again, if it were a tip, he does come back to the hotel later. So it's not his last day, so it can't be walking out of there. So I think, yeah, I'm with you, Tig. I think that he just had $10. And that was misconstrued by her completely. So it ends up in the toilet. When I saw that bill hit the toilet, I thought, part of me was wondering if it's going to be a gag alert that sees like, oh, well, I can't. Okay, that's gone now. But no, it's the fact that if he didn't notice that she's going to go in there. I think honestly, I think that's a justifiable screw you to her, and I think that's warranted for her for how she's treated him so far. It's like, that's your tip. Good luck.
Sure.
Petty as it is, you know what? It's like, she was completely unprofessional. She gave that hotel a bad name.
I mean, the first time in particular. Also, yeah. I think we did kind of glaze over the employee of the month thing.
Well, no, it's coming up. That's why we.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So let's see. So here this other thing. So he goes down there. He's looking for. I think he's looking for like the lunch area or something.
He's looking for the breakfast.
Yeah, he's looking for the breakfast area, and he's walking with the guy. And I love it's like an awkward walk. He wants us to find it himself, and he's just the guy.
Oh, it's so fucking awkward. Oh my, we've all been here, right?
Yeah, I'd probably try to chat up the guy, but yeah.
Oh man, that's the thing. It's like I'm always in my own head of like if he wants to be chatted up or not. I have that with Uber drivers too, honestly. It's like, if I'm not talking, am I going to come across as rude? I don't really feel like talking.
The Uber driver, this is where we're getting some curb talk here. What would the Uber driver take you? Would you guys just let him initiate?
Yeah, that's true.
If he initiates, there you go. Otherwise, just spoke when spoken to. Golden rule.
I like that rule. For Uber. But then when you have a guy that's too chatty, then it becomes a problem.
Well, that's the risk you take with Uber, Tiki.
Right.
That's the social contract. That's what you've signed on for. Like, take me where I need to go. But it's the same thing with the cab driver. Public transportation. Anywhere you go, you have other people there.
Sure.
Only time you don't have that is potentially like a well-paid limo driver, and even then, it's not a guarantee. There's an episode of Seinfeld that shows you the chatty limo driver, so you cannot escape it. There will be chatting.
All right.
Okay. Anyway. So so we go to the breakfast after we learn that she's employee of the month, which was a shock to him, but she's been here for 6 years and it's her last week. So I love Larry David, like he kind of all the ill will and malice kind of goes, oh, that explains it then. Okay.
Right.
All right, so anyway, so Larry on his way to breakfast, he gets the phone call from Jeff telling him that
Jeff doing actual like manager work, which is, you're right, it is a refreshing thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like for a couple seasons we've kind of forgotten this. So Jeff tells him like he's not going to pay you, and Larry's like he's not going to pay you, really, and so Larry says, okay, I'm going to go there. Where's his office? I'm going to go get that. You go get that money, Larry. So he goes to get the money, which I love how slyly he just gets in there. It's like, oh hey, you remember me from earlier?
Hey, good to see you.
Exactly, it's great. He just did that so perfectly. Using pleasantries, the man's again. There's a gag in one of the episodes of Curve where it's like, you're a social assassin. Where in this case, he's like, he's a pleasantry smooth operator. He's a burglar of pleasantries. You can just stroll on by, just going by with
pleasantries.
Yep, he burglarizes the pleasantries. Anyway, so he smoozes on all the way up to his office, and he confronts him. And I love this scene here because Larry has every right to confront this guy for not paying him, for refusing to pay him for such a stupid reason. Because I agree with Larry full-heartedly here, which I know is probably not shocking, but it's like he was not in breach of contract. There was an attempt at being cordial.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should have escalated the Brookie thing. I really don't. But
still, that man has no right
but at
not
the same
to pay
time,
him.
I do think it is pointed.
Yeah. Anyway, so he confronts him, and Fouché, he doesn't want to do like the screaming American thing, as he puts it. Instead, he wants to try TRC. I don't know what that is.
You live in Georgia, bro.
So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which was basically fed into the whole apartheid thing in South Africa.
Uh-huh.
So basically, it's kind of like a conflict resolution, kind of like a calming, like, this is what my issue is. What is your issue? How do we resolve this? Kind of, back and forth. Anyway, so I love this. This I think is genius. As Larry Davis his blunt honesty impresses our South African businessman.
Yes, totally.
Because Larry Davis, not just like offhand. He's not like shoving aside the stupid thing he wants to do. He's a very pretentious thing he wants to try here. He says, okay, fine. Like Larry Davis, I think Larry Davis is like the perfect improv.
Yeah, I'll take a seat. You want me to take a seat? Yeah, I'll take a seat.
Larry David's kind of like the perfect improv partner in that he always rolls with it. He says yes, like he'll indulge the stupidity, but he will call it out for how stupid it is.
Totally.
It's like, yeah, it's like, yes, I hate people. I hate myself. I get that. Yes, that's what you signed on for. This is what you get. And it works. He's impressed, and he's going to pay him. And Larry David like coughs his way through the kid's name, just getting the name of the kid to endorse the jersey. Endorse the jersey too. The young Larry shirt, I guess. And things seemingly are working out until we get to the airport again.
Yep.
So he tells Leon and everyone in the news there, and he basically he butt dialed. Well, not he. Sorry, he doesn't butt dial. He puts his phone down, and the fat dog. Yep. Pachuca essentially butt dials Michael after Larry gets off the phone, saying, "Oh yes, that is nice. I like to meet that kid." Ha ha ha.
Oh and sure, we can set up a Zoom.
He would hate that.
It would be torture for him. Literally.
I really wonder if, in the making of the seasons of Curb during the pandemic, or at least the planning stages of that, if there were Zoom meetings, which I wonder how that would have gone.
I would definitely think that there were at least a few.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, you'd imagine he would have to give it a shot at least.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in this butt dial, he rants to Maria Sophia about Michael Fouché, and he's ranting and raving about like how all the stupid, basically calls all the BS on this guy is the fact that he's not African, he's South African. Now, he does that and all his kid and everything, and they're just like lays it all out there, and then he realizes. And I love that we see him like tear up the check and everything, and Larry knows. Okay, I'm screwed. Like, hello, Michael. Goodbye,
Larry.
He knows it's a done deal,
Yeah.
Yep. Had the fake cordiality and everything. I think that's the one really stung for him. The whole thing, they kind of acknowledged, like, okay, he was cordial in reality. It was all fake cordiality.
Sure. Right.
Okay, then we have the ultimate Seinfeld payback scene, the end of our episode. This is like the full-on like nod to the Seinfeld finale here. So Larry David returns the glasses to Auntie Ray, who's standing in line while she's getting ready to vote, very eager to vote. And very kindly, Larry David offers her a water. It's like she's in the hot sun.
You know what my favorite detail about this is?
What
is the fact that, like, you got to imagine, because it's just literally just sitting in the back of a car. Mm-hmm. That's probably not cold water, right? That's probably like lukewarm water at best.
It is like a limo, though, isn't it?
That's true. That's
That's what I
true.
mean. I have never been. I don't know if they have like
But
little.
it's not like like limos have fridges, Dragon, and if the water came from a fridge, fine.
Well, remind me. Can you remind when we see it? Like he's not pulling it out of a fridge, right? It's just like in like a cup.
No, it's literally just in like in one of those like packages of bottles of water.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know. It can be fair. Well, regardless, I mean, it's either that or complete like dehydration. So I mean, I think it's the lesser of two evils, no matter what. But you're right.
Well, no,
I mean,
yeah, I'm saying it is like it's more of kind of like he just doesn't want her to get dehydrated. It's not like the bottle of water is like a luxury bottle of water, though.
it is like one of those fancy, expensive waters. Though, if you look at it.
All right, fair enough.
Well, I'm saying it's like one of those big, like it's like the fancy jug of water. So I don't know. It's like the Avion or Avion bottle of water.
Avion's not that fancy.
So not Avion, but you know what I mean. It's not like a Dasani or something. It's not like a little twist. It's like a bigger, clear, like filtered kind of fancy thing. Anyway, actually looking at it, the water it's in like a bag. So maybe it's like bought. If it could be bought from a grocery store and like from the freezer, put in the bag. So I don't know.
Oh my God, we're spending entirely too much.
Well, we're at the end anyway.
I'm sorry that I brought it up.
Don't regret the water thing. Let's talk more about it. Anyway, so Larry David gives her the water, and the cops, or I guess cops were there. They turn on the siren. They arrest him for giving a little old lady water in the hot sun because apparently there's this. No, I doubt there's like a real law, which again is an even better nod to Seinfeld, where there's a real law. It's an obscure law, but it's not 100% like verbatim what it was in the Seinfeld thing. Sorry, let me try that again. In Seinfeld, the last episode, there was the Good Samaritan Act. In this place they landed in, and essentially it was having they watched the fat man get robbed, and they mocked him.
Oh no!
They like while they basically recorded and was kind of like making jokes to each other while they watched this unfold, and they ended up getting arrested because it was like a Good Samaritan law, and apparently it's based on like a real law, which I don't think is like fully enforced, but essentially it's like in the tomes of history there's like this ridiculous Good Samaritan law somewhere. And I don't know if this is a completely fictitious thing they made up here about giving food or drink to people in line while they're voting, but it's you see where they're it's a very direct Seinfeld reference.
Sure.
And so it's kind of Larry David getting payback for writing that finale like that. So he's
and it's a good kind of like a mission statement in the first episode of the final season on.
Yep, we're back in Larry David and finales. So he gets arrested and he's calling this out, and you gotta wonder if on some level he is realizing, like, I wonder if the top of next episode he's gonna realize it's just like that finale I wrote.
Oh God! Right.
I wonder. So then we end the episode on a very, very unique image on a mugshot, which apparently is a nod to, I think Trump had a mugshot that's exactly like
this. It almost kind of looks like the Gary Busey mugshot too. That's kind of what
I don't know if it's. I heard it was like a direct, like it might have been a direct Trump reference because Larry David had like the whole MAGA hat one step, which is really funny in season 10, I think. So I think it might be like kind of a connective dot to that. But anyway. Regardless, Larry David, he is incarcerated, and we do a mugshot with him. That's where we end the episode.
All right. So yeah, like I said, I do think that this episode is basically like we're playing the hits. We got some service industry humor, we got some social interaction humor. We got like a genuine antagonist that I do think is going to cause some trouble as we go through the season. I'm excited to see where we go with the season. I assume it's 10 episodes, right?
Oh yeah, always, Tiki. Yeah.
For sure.
All right, yeah. So yeah, we finished episode 1. I think it's very promising, and again offers I call back the marketing of this season where there was like this teaser where like Larry David is revealed to be an alien. So we're gonna have fun with this being the last season. So if we're ending episode 1 like this and we're marketing it like that, I mean, I think we're just gonna have like surprises at every turn, like the best of ways. But it's also just gonna be like, okay, this is still gonna be curbed through and through, but for one last hurrah.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, big thanks to Kogias for popping in the comments. Like, basically, we're not really expecting this to be like a like a big draw for people on the channel. But this is essentially like a vanity project for us because we're both such big Curb Your Enthusiasm fans, and with the show coming to an end, the end of a historic run, we thought we'd commemorate it. So yeah. All right. Well, that'll be it for us tonight, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be here every week to cover the latest episode up until the finale. Have a good one. See y'all later.
Brookie!
I called you a cunt!